Black Queen, Lorena Mariposa Negra. Welcome back. Got a few items over here. How is your week? The first official week of August. How is it going? How is it going? I want to show y'all my plant. Now I've been having this for a little like over a week, but it's my plant. Child, my ashy probably, but is she pretty? This is an indoors plant. And this has nothing to do with what probably going to talk about, but this is an indoors plant. It has a little sun damage because I put it too close to the window. But I just wanted to talk about my plant because um, I'm just happy about it, quite frankly. And I can do that. You know what I'm saying? I can talk about it if I want to. But yeah, this is my plant. I'm thinking about, keeping her in here and everything. What is it called? Child, I can't even pronounce it right now. Like, what is it called? A philodendron, something like that. Anyway, I love this pot that it came with and everything. I just like it. I don't know. I just wanted to share that because planting is my happy space. I originally had a garden for the past, even when I had apartments, I had little gardens or little, things I grew. And here for the past 3 or 4 years, I've had a garden. This turning year, I did not because there was just a lot of shifts and changes, and I wasn't able to take care of the garden the way I want to. I had a winter garden, but I didn't have a spring garden or a summer garden. I thought about having another winter garden, but I don't know. But I've been still doing my planting and things like that, or, satisfying my need to some degree by having some house plants. And that's just my latest one. And I just wanted to share. I every day, before I get on here, I'll be thinking about the things I want to share with everybody and, based out of the climate or just encouragement in general, the things based out of being a believer or just a human being, you know. I want to try to give a different perspective and stuff like that. So I'll just share, how I woke up this morning. I woke up remembering. Have you ever had a dream that was like a memory, but it was a dream? And in the dream, you felt everything you felt in that memory when it actually happened. Not like just remembering that it was a good memory. And that you don't just remember that it was something good and that you enjoyed it, but you actually experienced the feeling in that moment that you experienced. It's like, how it is when you're hungry. You're hungry, you have a taste for something, you have a favorite food, and the reason why you want it is because you remember that you enjoyed it, you tasted good, and sometimes you can almost taste it, meaning that you can't really taste it. You just have such a strong memory and pleasure for that moment that you can almost taste it again. This is how this dream was. I was having the experience where it was like more than just almost tasting it. When now the comparison is we can almost taste it versus when you take that first bite and it's like, oh man, this is so good. I knew it was gonna be good just like the last time. And you get to experience that feeling, but actually have it. In the dream, in my life, I've looked back at some things in my life and remember like, if I think about it hard enough, I can almost remember how that moment felt. But I remember still that it was a good moment, and I have a happy thought from that space. And in this dream, it was like I took a bite of the proverbial meal. The I took a bite out of something I had been remembering for a while, and I was having the experience all over again. Well, um, you know that we have been in the Olympics lately, and not being in the Olympics, but we are in the Olympics. The Olympics, they're happening. There's been a lot of things going on with the Olympics, some good, some not so great, controversy, wins and triumphs, amazing things happening. But whether it be a controversy or celebration, it is the Olympics is a kind of like a hub of the times that we're in. It kind of shows it and everything. But it's the one time it's like, seems like a little like the whole world is having fun together, even if the world is not having fun together in a sense. But it's the one time where we're just being human at our best. And I've seen a lot of sportsmanship between different countries and stuff like that, and that's been nice. Now, this comes from me, from somebody who hasn't been heavily following the Olympics. Usually, I love to watch the Olympics. I love watching the track. That's what I used to do. They have so many different spaces and places going, when it comes to variety of sports. I love watching the gymnasts usually in the Summer Olympics and things like that. But I haven't really been keeping up. I was just like, I wanted to, but I just been finding other, not finding other things to do, but doing things. But the thing about it is, when I was younger, I did do track. Um, I did track in junior high and high school, and the plan was to take it to college. I went through some hard times to where I didn't run for a while. As a matter of fact, a couple of years went by where I wasn't running for my school, but we were going through a lot of transitions in my family, and it made me walk and all that stuff. When I came back to track, I came back as kind of like I came back as a freshman and in high school. Now, mind you, I did say I ran track in junior high, but that was only 1 year. And then I got set back in my 8th grade year. I was dealing with a lot of depression and things like that, and I wasn't running, and so I didn't feel like I had purpose. And this is one of those that year that I dealt with, suicide and all that stuff. My mom was like, well, if you work hard, you can get back into doing sports. And so she let me go back into sports, and then all of a sudden, my joy is back, right? And so I did finish my second 8th grade year. Already knew the stuff, but now that I had a purpose, I was like, oh yeah, I'm fine. So that went like it did just fine. Then I went to summer school just to make sure because back then you could go to summer school and cover the things if you're back a grade, and put you up a grade. So technically that covered me to the point to where I would be able to graduate early, which would really be on time. So I still came in as a freshman. And I was running, and I was getting to do track. And the first practice we did, the first whatever we did, that day, I kept it with the seniors. And they was like, you shouldn't have did that, because now coach is going to expect it from you all the time. But which is crazy is that if you rewind back into the place where I was depressed, and I don't know if I told the story here, but when I was depressed and I told God, hey, if he didn't do something, I was going to, commit suicide, and I was going to just take myself out. Yes, I was a believer. People need to understand that we're humans first. You know what I'm saying? Like, we live in this world. We may not be of the world, but our experiences that we have in this world hit us first. And you can be a believer and still get lost in the mix and the mass of depression and suicide. And I had been pretending to be me. I had been pretending to be happy. I had been pretending to be all these things because I was trying to buy time so that I could figure out how I was going to take myself out. And I had attempted a couple of times. I attempted, trying to even drown myself, or we were too poor to have prescription pills. I didn't, have access to a weapon, you know what I'm saying? So I was like, how am I going to do this? And I was like, oh, I know, it's going to be a knife down, I'm not going to tell you exactly, but because I don't want to give anybody ideas, but I had made up my mind, hey, God, if you don't do something, because we were going through so much as a family. We were under so many spiritual attacks. We were under natural attacks that were manifested from spiritual things. There was so much going on. And I'm an introvert. And so sometimes as introverts, you could feel everybody. And what's crazy is my brothers are also introverts. And we could feel each other. I could feel my mom. I could feel my dad. I could feel my brothers. I could feel their sadness. I could feel the things. And my younger brother was the reason why I kept staying. He was the reason why I kept being here. But I got to the point where he wasn't going to be enough to keep me here any longer. I started preparing him secretly, because I was like, I'm either going to die from the level of physical pain I was in, because I was in a lot of pain. And sometimes people don't listen to kids when they say they're in pain, or sometimes people think, you're being lazy, or sometimes they think, well, you're strong enough, you're young, you'll be fine. And when you're poor, and we were poor, your child says they're in pain, what can you really do? You know what I'm saying? And I was very small and very petite and very little, and everybody was bigger than me. Everybody's taller than me in my family. And I mean, I grew, but at the time I just was the smallest one. I still am technically the shortest and the smallest one, but I'm not that petite anymore. I was just unhealthy from sadness. Um, um, so I'm trying to get back to the point, but I had to give you some context. And this context is I was having physical pain, and felt like a foot on my chest. And I was like, God, I'm either going to die from this pain, or I'm going to take myself out. And the pain was like, I had the enemy telling me, oh, you're going to die from the pain. But then at the same time, he kept trying to tell me to take myself out. When you think about it, it's contradictory. If I'm going to die from the pain, then why are you trying to convince me to take myself out? Right. And I remember my mom had a friend who had just started a church close by. She had moved closer, and she just started her church there. And I didn't really like going to the church. It was small, it was just like, we're going to support, but we didn't have like a church really home to go to. So that kind of became our church home. I just didn't, click for me, but it was somewhere to go to worship and pray and be around like-minded people. And it wasn't bad. It was just like, it's, it's just, your mom's friend's church. That's how I looked at it. I was a kid. And so, we went, and before we went, I forgot, it was like Wednesday or Tuesday night Bible study or something like that. And I told God, I was just happened to be in a room by myself. We had a 2-bedroom apartment. We lived in a very, very difficult neighborhood. Like when I say difficult, we shared a wall with our next door neighbor were the Crips. Like that's, and we would have drive-bys and all that stuff. And there's a lot of times people don't think because of who you are, you understand certain struggles. They think, oh, you're fine. They don't know what you've been through. And I remember like how we weren't allowed to stay outside because them trying to recruit my brothers. It was a whole thing. And we were depressed. We were in prison there in that neighborhood. I mean, it was like, it was victory in one way because we weren't in poverty anymore, which is the next level. We had windows and a door that and a roof, but it was still like this prison, and it was just getting sadder and sadder and sadder. And I told God, I was like, I'm done. If you don't do something, I will. And God knows my heart. I meant every word of that. You said I had a purpose. You said you had something for me. I can't keep watching my family suffer, and I can't keep suffering myself. I can't take this. I have pain in my physical body. Like I couldn't breathe good. I was having a hard time. And mind you, I didn't always have the articulation to express or explain the things because once again, I was a teenager. I didn't know how to put things to words and I was depressed. So I didn't have words for what I was feeling. I was just in it. And we went to this service and there was this man there who was told to come down to the new church. And sometimes these churches are connected to bigger churches so they can have support and things like that, especially when they're starting off. You need a lot of support. No matter what it is, it's a nonprofit or a business, you need support. And so he was told to come down from the north down here to help support this church under their umbrella. And he didn't want to come. He said, I didn't really want to come down here. And they was like, no, you're going to have to go because you need to go, you got to go. It's your turn. It's your turn to go and do something. It's your time. And he was like, man, I ain't want to go. And he said it. He said he didn't want to come down here. He said, I want to come down to a little church down here, But then he saw the purpose. And his honesty made me listen to him because it was like he wasn't trying to be fake or fronting or anything. He was talking about how he just really didn't feel like doing something, even though God told him. He was like, but I didn't want to be like Jonah, you know what I'm saying? So I came on down, and because God has, there's a reason. And he began to prophesy to my brothers, my mom, myself. And he told them everything that was going on with me. I felt the first time like anybody had seen me. And when he prayed for me, whatever was sitting on me lifted off. I could breathe. My back wasn't hurting. My chest wasn't hurting. And everything that was attacking me had been exposed. Everything that was attacking my brothers had been exposed. A strategy had been put in place on what to do and how to pray for us, how to cover us. Like it was all these answers all at one time. And God said I did something. And when I tell you, the first thing I said is, I can breathe. And my mom was like, you couldn't breathe? I was like, well, I didn't even realize how bad it had gotten because it was just like, I was breathing, but it hurt. It was unnatural. And then there's no words to explain that. And she was, it wasn't like an obvious, I couldn't breathe. It wasn't like I was just out here passing out. My mom didn't notice. Like she would notice that. It was just that we were going through so much. Everybody was quiet. Everybody was sad. Everybody was probably feeling everybody. So, but to the degree of what's going on inside of somebody, no, only God knows, But God took all that off and I got free. Then I was able to start back in track. And this is after being gone for 2 years. This is after the depression. This is after getting through the desire to take myself out. And this is the thing. I didn't really want to die, but I didn't think I could live like that anymore. I didn't want to, die and go to hell or whatever. But I was like, you know what? I'm already in hell. Like that was my logic. Pay attention to people. I'm just saying, you'd be right under your nose. And before you punish your child or whatever it is, because of the way they're acting, like really think about who they are and don't assume you know them. I just want to say, don't assume you know everything about somebody. That's one of the prisons, because if they keep acting like themselves and you think you know everything that there is that's happening, you will not check beyond the surface. This is what we need: the Holy Spirit to discern the word, but we also need the Holy Spirit to discern people that are around us. And we have to be willing. You can't act like it's too much work to just see somebody. It will save somebody's life. It saved mine to be seen. So I get to go back to track. And the prophecy was that, I was going to have, certain gifts and all these things. And I was going to do things, before, like do certain things and stuff like that. And that hadn't been seen in my family at that time. Well, one of those things was getting back into track and making varsity as soon as I got in, as if I had been running the whole time. And my times were just as fast as the seniors. And I'm not the only freshman that's done that, when it comes to overall. But for my family, it was just like I got my lettermans, I got all this stuff. I just started excelling. I had a scout come look at me, you know, just in that year. I just got that. And it was a good feeling. There are things that end up happening after that that would pick away at me, take so much away from me, but not enough to where I wanted to take myself out again, because I remembered the prophecy, the promise about the gift, and the evidence was in that first year. I would go through a lot of other things, some things way worse than what I was going through when I was contemplating suicide. But it just wasn't a part of who I was. Suicide is not my identity. And just in case you're on here and you have contemplated or thought about it, it's not you. It's an idea given to you. It's an invasive thought that attaches itself to your very real and present pain. It makes you believe that you will never escape or never get anything back. I was convinced that I wouldn't see the age of 14. Now I'm well past 14, and I'm on a podcast talking about this story when I probably could have just somebody else would have had to tell it, and it wouldn't have been a good ending. But God reminded me of this morning about how much I love track. All the things that came against me to keep me from running. How I was offered different positions and outside of regular track, and how that could have led to me maybe getting to my dream of even being in Olympics or competing at a high level. How it could have provided me going to college because, like I said, I already had scouts looking at me. Everything started falling apart. Everything started going haywire. To the point where one day I just sat down and just accepted it. And I feel like I just been in that space for a long time. And even though I didn't want to take myself out, I just accepted it. I used to have this tenacity and want to do everything that I could do, anything. I just believed it. It wasn't a question. It was just like, I know I can if you just give me the chance kind of person. Like, if I could just get in the door, I get it. If I could just get the opportunity, I would get it. And slowly over time, it just got beat out of me. Life beat it out of me. I had strange attacks, strange things. And now I'm getting to this point in my life where God is talking about giving me back everything the enemy ever stole from me. And sometimes it's the best parts of your identity that you forgot about. The best parts of actually who you are and your personality that you haven't even operated in because you sat down. This morning I woke up, and midway waking up from the dream into waking up, and I was still kind of in the dream and kind of coming out of the dream. And midway between it, I was like, I remember this. I felt this feeling the other day. What was it? And I was dreaming about running. And I had won, and I was in the moment, and it was like an experience. I had a real experience right now that I used to have a long time ago that I haven't felt in a long time. And I tasted the burger. I tasted it. I recognized that feeling. I was experiencing it as if it were a part of my reality today. And I just was happy. I was just smiling. I was just walking around smiling. And I heard God say, do you remember how you used to feel when you ran? I was like, yeah, it was good. And even though I was smiling, there's a little bit of me that's a little sad because I remember how good it felt. I also remember that I didn't get to find out all that I could do. But I feel like God is taking me back to the place where it felt good. The place where I was before I sat down. Because it's not really about the running. It's about that I was, that I could, that I would, that my heart, where my heart was, where my mind was. I was just so ready. And this is the thing. Anytime something happened, I was like, okay, maybe I'll try something else. Like, got accepted to represent, a, before I even started actually modeling, I was part of my brother was like, let's take you to the modeling agency. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll try it because you be always having me try stuff. And so they was like, hey, go to this one thing event, audition or whatever. And then I got picked out over 2,000 plus women and girls or young women to represent, them in state for the pageant. And then I had to turn that down. I got forced to turn it down, and it was just like one thing after the other. And I was excelling in my classes. I was, CNA at the time back then was good money, and I was excelling in my classes, but then didn't have, all of a sudden didn't have a car, didn't have a way to go finish everything. Then, I just had so many almost. And after a while, you just keep dealing with almost this and almost that and almost that. Over time, you start slowing down, your pace starts slowing down, and you keep trying to drag yourself to the next thing, but it may be almost again. And you try to do school, and you almost got to finish, but then that happened and it forced you to have to let it go. And then you try to do, there's so many things that you try to do, and it leaves you at almost. And then after a while, you just feel like it's never going to happen. And you just have a whole bunch of almost stories. And then I had the dream. The dream of where I come from, the dream of who I am. And I think like this is the time or the season where we're going to find out. Hold on, guys. I see a little gnat, and I just got to trying to get it. Maybe it came from the plant. I don't know. But the almost that we're about to find out, it is. I read a blog on momdreams.org .info.org. And on the blog, I forgot what it was called, the title of the blog, but in the blog, on the website, there's other resources on there, by the way. If you're a woman and you have a dream, there's resources there and all kinds of things. But on there, I also have a blog, and I was reading the most recent one, and it's talking about going back and getting what, I guess the compliments. When people say, "Oh, you changed," or "You're not this person anymore," or this, that, and the other, and sometimes that's a good thing, but they try to give you a backhanded compliment. But it almost feels like I'm being given back my happy, just my happy, that the thing that made me move, the thing that made me speak up, and the thing that made me believe that I can do anything. Like, it's something that was very internal, that was about who I was, and it feels like that's what's being given back to me. And I want to talk to everybody that feels like, well, I can't go back into the past and do what I did. And actually, I could start running track again if I wanted to. They have competition levels for all ages and things like that. So that's not actually a dream that can't happen. But there's things that you used to be fearless about, or that you may not even realize you stopped doing, because you have just been worn out. And you need to remember who you are. Remember Lion King? Remember. Remember. I don't know if I did that right. Remember. Yeah. But we need to remember who we are. We are not what we've become necessarily always. What I mean by that is we're not in the, we don't need to be everything we were, but there are some good things that we need to remember about who we were. There are still those things in us, but we don't operate in them anymore. And that's sometimes why we're sad. That's sometimes the very reason why we're not happy about something or why we're not excited about something is because we're not even operating in the greatest part of ourselves. We've put it on lock and key and put it on hush mode and put it on the silent mode or whatever. And we don't use it. We don't stand on it. We don't move through it. We don't anything. And that's where we start living in a different identity, living in a different frame of reference. And when you do that, you're living under somebody else's ideal. You're living under everything that happened to you. You're not living as you. And it can be very depressing to be in the shadow of something that's not you. You remember that you were happy and you're, happy about the things that you did or whatever, but you forgot what it felt like. And it's so important that you know again what it feels like to be strong, to move, to dance, to jump, to skip, to leap. It's so important for you to remember who you are, your fearlessness. It's so important that you understand that that is who you are, and it's not about age. It's not about age. It's about who you are, and who you are has been drugged through the mud, tired. But remember who you are. Remember the feeling. It's time to feel again. Some of us are like walking dead people. We're existing, but we're not feeling greatness. We're not feeling excitement. We're not feeling joy. And it's not to say that you don't have the right to feel all the things that you've been feeling or whatever. We're experiencing like the shadow of the actual joy. Like if joy was a person, we wouldn't know him by face. We would know him by the silhouette. And joy moves, and you got to be able to move with it. It moves around. It's attached to certain things, and you are always looking at the shadow. And God is trying to get you to shake the hand of joy and look it in his eye and have a conversation with it again. Just to be you again. The you that you forgot about. So this inspired me to go ahead and turn on the Olympics. It's on Peacock, by the way, if you want to watch. And I turned on track. I was watching it, and it was an event I actually used to run at, but it was the men's, I think 3 mile or 2 mile or whatever like that, when they jump and they go in the water and all that stuff and everything. And so they're running, and USA is coming up. They're 3 laps away from the race ending. And this is where you start having to make your moves, is that 3 laps away. You got to start moving away from the back of the crowd. Now, he had stayed in the middle. Strategy was to keep a pace for a certain time and then begin to move himself up a little bit at a time. So by the time he was on the second lap, and they're 2 laps away, he's a little further up. Then they're a lap and a half away. He starts gaining more speed, getting more around the people. I'm getting excited. Me and my oldest son are watching. I'm like, oh, he's doing it, right? He's gaining on him, and he's the only one. Everybody else has like maybe 2 or 3, or a couple of maybe two or three or whatever in the race. There's only a few that's the only one of them in the race. And he's gaining. He's gaining more. And right when they hit the last lap, he's now in the first. And I was like, ooh, that's too soon. It's too soon a little bit. Wait a little bit. Wait until you're 1/4 down to get in first, so you won't spend your energy. But he's starting to get a distance between him and everyone else. He is at the last. He's at the 100, and then here comes Morocco. Morocco is tall and got long legs. And we know in a long distance run that those are the gifts of God. Okay, is that stride. And U.S. is stride is not as good, as long. It's good, but it's not as long because it's not as tall. It's just natural ability. And then there is, I think was it Jamaica? It wasn't Jamaica. It was Ethiopia, I believe. Ethiopia. And he's coming up on him too. Now, Morocco got about this much distance between, like, they running on the screen. It's like this. And then here comes Ethiopia. And he's side by side. And USA, he's fighting. You can see him running like this, like he's fighting. And I'm getting excited. I'm like, oh my gosh, come on. You can get silver. You can get silver. And then he crossed the finish line, dip. He gets silver. And I was like, boy, that was a good race, right? And my son's like, I've never seen you like this before. I've never seen you this excited. And this wasn't even my favorite race, but it was good. And it was just that he was the only one of him out there representing for our whole nation. He represented well. And he's a recent graduate, and he's like really young and from college and stuff, and he represented well. And it was like the first time in a long time that America has ever had a chance at getting gold in this race, and put pressure on the guy from Morocco who keeps getting gold. Like, he put pressure on him. He gave him some pressure, and he won silver. And I think it was Ethiopia won bronze. So, and he did so well, and he placed us, and he was there by himself. He had to just stick to what he knew. But my son was like, I never saw you this excited before. I was like, well, I used to do track, so that's where it comes from. And he was like, but I've never seen you like this. See, I've heard some stories here and there, but I never seen you this excited before. I never seen you like, he hadn't had that experience with me concerning track. My kids don't know that part of me. They haven't met that part of me. And it's a very important part of me. And that excitement showed him a different side of me. But just think if I could just raise them and continue showing them that part of me, that girl with the tenacity, the excitement, the passion, the focus, the drive coming out of me. That's the part I want to raise them with. That's the part I want to teach them with. That's the part I want to give them. I want to give them everything that was ever taken from me. But I can't give them something that I'm not operating under. And I feel like it's time to just remember. Remember my whole self. My identity is not in the tasks that I've had to make or do throughout the time, or the things that were taken, or things that were even given. And it's been some good stuff, just as much as it's been other things. My identity was shown, one of its strongest places was when I was running. And it wasn't just the running, it was like how I thought of myself, the mentality and how I felt. And it wasn't just that, but there was other things that I went after. Everything that I did after. The way I did it, the why. and getting back to the why. Because I wanted something more. I was hungry. And sometimes we've gotten full off of crap. When some food has MSG in it and you eat it and you feel full for a little bit, but then you get hungry again. And then you get full for a little bit and then you feel hungry again. And you get full you only eat a little bit and you get full, but then you feel hungry again shortly. And it's messing with your body because it's telling your body that you're full, but really you're not really full. And you're not probably really hungry. But because that MSG is in there, it's confusing you. You know what I'm saying? Or when you eat a lot of empty calories. So you can eat a lot of donuts and pastries and stuff like that, especially in the United States. There's a lot of empty calories in it. And eat it and you feel full, but then you feel hungry. You don't feel like you had added anything to your body, any sustenance. But you ate. Some of us, we're not eating good. We're just filling our body with something to satisfy the hunger enough to quiet it, but not satisfy the appetite. It suppresses the appetite and quiets the hunger. And it takes the joy out of the food. When you have a full course meal, 5-course meal, full meal, or 5-course meal, there's an art to it. The first course, when it comes out and it tastes and all the flavors in it, and why you start with what would you start with, and then you have something where you clean your palate, and then the next comes out and it's for the experience. You settling for chips and dollar store Twinkies or donuts, and God is like, but you remember how it was when you eat for the 5-course meal? I want you eating good again. When I make this burger, this steak, when I make this delicious meal for you, it's going to be made with real ingredients. And it's going to fill you up. And it's going to really bring back your appetite. Because when you start eating right, as anybody ever knows, when you start eating right, then the appetite starts balancing out. You start feeling really, real hungry. Like, man, I feel so hungry. And then you start having appetite with your hunger. Like, nah, I don't want that. I want this. Or I have a craving. So you get hungry, you have appetites, and then you start having craving. You just suppress all of that with the food that's not good. It's just making sure you're staying alive. And it's not enough just to be alive. It's not enough just to be alive. Because if we're just alive, then we aren't living a purpose, and it will make us contemplate killing the dream, killing our own. So, which this is the thing, you got to go somewhere. So just because you take this body out doesn't mean your soul and your spirit die. And you got to think about them. Where are they going to be? You can't take yourself out of existence. You will exist somewhere else. Don't be deceived thinking when you stop this life that you stop life. You have to exist somewhere else. I don't want to just exist. I want to live somewhere else. And I want to live here. And I want to live at my best. And I want to have my appetite back. And I want my hunger back. And I want the craving for what's good. Because your body will crave things that are actually good for you. When I was an athlete and heavy on athlete, I would crave vegetables so much. Fruits and vegetables just crave because my body needed it. Even when you're pregnant and you're going through a change and a transformation, sometimes you crave the weirdest combinations of food. But if you look at the food, sometimes those foods have certain things in them that you actually need. Sometimes it's just crazy cravings. I don't know what to tell you. But if we talk about God, setting a table before us in presence of our enemies and everything, but we ain't talking about what we eating. What you been eating? If when people start eating healthy first, sometimes stuff tastes nasty to them. because they have so much toxic stuff in them that good stuff, healthy stuff don't taste good. And it take a while to purge that all out so you can actually enjoy the actual real flavor of the food. God has a table and all the things ready for you. Are you going to eat? Are you going to tell God, oh, wait, this don't taste like this. It's not supposed to. We need our taste buds to change. We need our hunger for real things to come back. We need our tenacity back. The feeling of feeling strong back. Are you hungry? Do you have appetite? What are you craving? And are the things that you're doing cheap satisfaction for a greater need? Do you really want to eat well? Or do you just want to get it over with and not really deal with the fact that you really need more? You really want more? Because the thing about it, you can suppress it all you want to, but the real desire is never going to go away. It will still be there. And so the question is, are you doing the things that add to a healthy hunger, or are you doing the things that keep giving you empty calories? Are you walking through the world trying to manage your life with fool's gold, fake money? Are you willing to put the work in to find real gold, to work hard to have real money so that you can get real things? We can't survive off of a bad meal plan. This is why we're not happy. And it says literally that the food we eat can connect us to depression and cancers and unhealthy things. What are you eating spiritually? What have you been accepting as a replacement, or what you sometimes we think of it as provision, and that's not God's provision. Something that just helped you stay alive. You've been surviving off of junk food spiritually, but you ain't been eating. You haven't really been you. You haven't even felt what it's like to feel energy in your body from eating healthy. And it takes time. It takes a little time. When you stop drinking soda, drink more water, you start feeling it. First, you have the withdrawals and you have headaches. Well, just in a little time, it can change. I don't know if y'all hear that. You hear that? Okay, because this neck, he's fine over here. So, you're at your body starving. And what's crazy is, let me cut this off. Your body's starving, slowly dying. And I may not have went through immediately taking my life or suicide or whatever, taking myself out of time and placing myself eternally into eternity before God's timing or will, which is so good. But all the wonderful things that have happened, what have I been eating in the process, in my spirit? There's so many people out here slowly dying, slowly killing themselves. Malnutrition spirit, malnutrition soul, malnutrition happy, malnutrition joy, malnutrition excite, malnutritioned, and trying to run with that. Having all this stuff sucked from you, accepting less and less, because that's what the enemy has to do. He has to slowly, because he can't just do it abruptly, because then we'll notice. He knows we're too smart for that. So he has to slowly just chip away at you. You know, when I've been homeless, I went from living in a house or in a house with an apartment and be okay, and then be homeless. And I remember moving from an apartment, nice apartment, and then having to live in a hotel. And at first I was really sad, about it, but I was happy I wasn't all the way homeless, like on the street. Like, there's different levels to this thing. And I've lived at different levels of it. So I knew this wasn't that as bad as it could be. But it was still devastating because it was a chain I was trying to break in my life. And I was there with my family, and I was just really depressed, and I was just coming from having a C-section. It was a whole lot of things. I had a family member pass, and all at once. And then I started getting used to it. I started saying, you know what, it's not so bad. Because I had the C-section, I really didn't need too much to have to look after and clean. I didn't really need to walk up stairs all the time. I didn't really, even though I did live upstairs, but because of the situation, I would stay inside a lot more. I didn't really need to have to wash everything myself. I didn't really need all these things to be pulling on me. And I had 2 small children, and if I go, when I go to the bathroom, I could see them. Like, it was like, okay, this is fine. But then I got too used to it, and God was like, okay, now we got to take you out of it, because now you're getting too used to it. What have you? So before I say that, he moved us into another apartment. It was bigger and all that stuff. And sometimes I actually missed the hotel because it was easier on my body. But it wasn't where I needed to stay. Sometimes we have to decrease so God can make room for us somewhere else. Sometimes we have to let go something. And in the transition, we deal with not being in Egypt and having what was secure anymore, or just not being in the place we were. And so it may be a little harder being in that space, but then we can get used to it. We get used to being in a small space. It was never meant for us to get used to like that. It was just a provision in the middle of take you from point A to point B. And God had to take me out of it really quickly because I was too okay with it. I was like, oh man, I started thinking about how much easier things could be with me healing. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I was just like too okay. Like, it's a hotel. Like, we did not need to stay there. Okay. And I'm saying this to you. What is it that has slowly shrunk that you've gotten used to that was supposed to be a temporary place? And now God is trying to take you out of it. I got something on my mouth. I could feel it. I don't know. I feel like something on my mouth. I don't know. No, you keep feeling like you feel something. Like, I can't. Anyway, I'm sorry, guys. But you're in a temporary place. And you've been in a temporary place for way too long. And it wasn't that it was bad that you were there, but it was just never meant to provide for just keep you there for that long, And God is ready to move you. And I take this for myself too, because there's some places in me, and this is why I told the story, where, I just forgot. And I think it was so important that I just remembered that, I used to like bigger space. I used to like this. I used to enjoy that. And now I forgot what I've enjoyed because I don't even have it around me. I'm not even close to it. I'm not even in close proximity. I forgot all about the me that needs to be present now for where I'm going. So what are you not eating anymore? What are you not craving anymore that you used to crave? And I'm not saying you gotta be 15 again, but there's a part of that person that still is a part of who you are today. and it needs to be relevant. And I'm not talking about the negative stuff, but like, even if you did crappy stuff as a kid and you was just like, I just used to do anything. I won't worry about that. I just did whatever. Now, maybe you don't need to do whatever. Okay. But maybe that attitude that you had where you just weren't worried about certain stuff, there's something about that that can remind you of, you know what, because it made me, I wasn't really worried about anything because I was fearless. So I just tried anything. So now you have wisdom, but you still need some fearlessness in you. Because what is wisdom if you never apply it to anything? Wisdom has to be applied. Faith without works is dead. How can you know what you need wisdom for if you're not put in a position? You don't need to be overly afraid or overly scared to do things, but sometimes it's what happens. So are you hungry? And if you're not, why? What have you been eating on? What has been suppressing your appetite for your life? Have you forgotten who you are? Have you forgotten who you used to be? Do you really think that was just attached to your age? No, it was always you. It was always you. What made you stop indulging in you? Stop being you. Because then if that's the case, then that shows you right there. It was never age. It was circumstances that changed it. There's kids that lose their joy because of circumstances. And there's elderly people that are youthful and full of energy and have all this tenacity because it's circumstances. It's the circumstance and the state of your mind, how you think. Sometimes we've been through some things that are so traumatic I just don't know how I could ever be that person again. I don't know how to reconnect to that. I understand that. I went through being raped, and it literally made me feel like every memory that I had belonged to somebody else. It made me feel like I don't know her. It's like I could remember her fully, like who she really was. It was very difficult to mentally deal with feeling disconnected from the you've always known. So now who am I? Because rape is murder. It's a spiritual murder. It's evil. And there's different ways of there's the way we all know what rape is, but sometimes people rape your mind. They rape your spirit. They torment you. They do things to you that change so much about you. But that girl that God reminded me of was before the rape. Was before the certain attacks, was after the suicide attempts. It was a sweet spot. It was me and him. That's what made that place great. It was amazing because of the type of conversations we would have. He made it good. Me and God have always been good together, but I forgot sometimes how good. And it's so important that we remember who we are. I've been guilty of believing the lie. You know? But there's no amount of rape and that has happened in my life, or hell or high water or traumas, that has taken away my purpose or the identity God calls me by. I am who he's called me to be, regardless. And I believe in the power of resurrection. And I say this whether it happened as a child or as an adult. The things people took from you We left you vulnerable. People who violated you, betrayed you, changed your world, took a soulmate or somebody you loved, or even that argument that happened before the wreck. And you live with that. And it changed you. God can give you peace in the middle of the torment that has been sown into your soul. He can be the one that gives you rest in the storm of your mind. He's the one that can say, peace be still. He's the one that you can learn all these great things about you. And this is what's also amazing. Not only will he remind you of who you are, he will show you other things about who you are that you did not even know. But he has to remind you of your faith. He has to remind you how to believe again. Because it's going to take that sweet spot to birth or to give room, not even to birth, because some things already are waiting and existing in you, waiting to be used. But it will give room to full-grown identity, joy and peace, full-grown gifts that you don't even know you really have. Things, and this is why people will be upset, because you are making moves that it's unexplainable, because they didn't see when you trained. They didn't see how you got the gift. They didn't even see you operating the gift. But if I tell you, if you give room to the sweet spot, you give room to the sweet spot, you're going to see there was other things to you, and that those things came to kill, steal, and destroy you. Yet you are still here. And God is calling on the sweet spot. He's calling on your sweet spot. He's calling on that place where you felt hungry and you had tenacity and you wouldn't easily move. That space where you forgot about when you believed you can do anything. He said you can, and you still are. I'm the one who gave it to you. And I'm the one who could wake it back up. Like I rose the 12-year-old little girl, like I rose Lazarus from the dead. It's resurrection time. And I want to give you back your sweet spot. I want to give you back your hunger. I want to give you back your appetite and your desire for more. Because to be quite honest, you're not satisfied with where you are. It doesn't please your soul or your spirit. You're not happy, you're depressed because you're not being you. And you don't know how to be that, but it takes God to help us be us sometimes, because sometimes we are that gifted and extraordinary, and he allows us for it to be so much so that we will look to him. We're wonderful and fearfully made. That's God's words. So when you think of the word fearfully, I think about God's extraordinary wonders that we have seen in the Bible. Those are just his wonders. What does he mean when he says you're fearfully made? To me, it means that we don't really know the power of our presence, and that the enemy does. Because let me tell you something, regardless if you believe in who you are, the enemy most definitely believes in who you are. He 100% knows in who you are. He knows what it means when God has called you wonderful and fearfully made. And he needs to do everything to make you do this and forget, do this and forget, be distracted and forget. He knows. He took it seriously. That's why he sent the problems. That's why he sent the attacks. That's why he sent the nightmares. That's why he gave you it, try to send illnesses and give you seizures and make you feel like the world you live in keeps attacking you, because a prophet is not accepted in his own city, his own town. So you keep being attacked and you think it's you. You think something's wrong with you when it's really your region. It's really because you are who you are. It's who you are, and why that's why you're being under attack. It's who you are. Who you are has the power to move demonic forces in fear to try to stop God's hand in his gift in you. They're so afraid that he didn't just send one or two or three. He sent multiple things after you, after your family, after you. Because he knows who you are. Let the pain be the evidence. Let the chaos be the evidence that, oh man, He's scared for real. Because if I get to cooking and shaking and baking like God wants me, if I get to eating, if I get my appetite back, my taste buds for the thing back, he can't stop who I'm going to influence. He can't stop who I can help. He can't stop it. But you can do this. And stop looking up at God. Stop getting your eyes. Keep your eyes on God when you're walking on the water. But even when you look to the left, if you fall a little bit, reach out to him. He'll grab you. Put your eyes right back on him. He knows who you are. I heard T.D. Jakes say something about Peter when Peter was in prison the first time. And they were praying for him back at the house because they were scared. It was like, man, Peter in prison and they trying to kill all us and all this stuff going on. And it took time for them to go and find each of the disciples that walked with Jesus. But in the meantime, between time, they was killing saints and believers, just regular people that just were believing that weren't, they were just believers, And Peter's in prison, the rock that he built his church on. He's in prison and they have 16 guards on Peter. And T.D. Jakes said something that stood with me is that was respect. They knew who he was. They didn't give him 2 or 3, even 4. They gave 16 guards deep on Peter. I don't know. You ain't just anybody. You're not just anybody. It's because of who you are. I have to put 16 deep on you. It's because of who you are. We have to bring 3-4 cars to shoot up your house, and yet you still didn't die. It's because of who you are. The fight has been so hard. It's because of who you actually are. But meanwhile, you trying to survive off of chips and Twinkies, and guys, like, I'm trying to get you to a table. And I need your taste to change, your appetite to change back. I need it to change, and not just back, but I need it to change, and it needed to grow, because what I'm trying to give you is a sustenance for the body that you have, but you don't even understand what you have, because when you look in the mirror, you don't see your body. You don't see the way it's made and been chiseled and made by God. You don't see that. You see flaws. You see all this. You see through the eyes of the enemy and what he gives you. And honestly, you don't really see yourself through the eyes of the enemy, because the enemy sees you for who you are. You see through the lens he gave you, because he gave you the lens because he saw who you are. He said, okay, so they got wings. So let me show them, let me make them feel like they're chained to the ground. Or, okay, they have the ability to speak life. Okay, let me feel like that anytime they do something, death happens. Okay, they have ability to grow people. So let me, every time they do something, they feel like they lose something. Okay, because the way he has to build a lie is because he knows the truth about you. The way he builds his attack is that he learns his enemy. When are you going to learn your enemy? You aren't moving because you aren't moving because you don't see yourself through God's eyes. You don't even see yourself through the enemy's eyes. You see it through the lens that he gave you. You see it through the lens he gave you. Because if you saw yourself through the enemy's eyes, you understand why he's afraid. You understand why it was 16 deep. You understand why it was so important to chase you down and hunt you down. You will understand why it was so important to tell you a lie. You will understand why you were studied and stalked by the enemy. If you understood what he saw when he looked at you. That he knows as long as you can't see yourself. If I could put mud on the mirror, as long as you can't see yourself, you won't use what you have. Because see, it's not something you got to go get. You already have it. But if you don't see that you got a weapon in your hand, you don't see that your body is made of weapons and artillery, your spiritual body, your gifts, if you don't see what you have, you can't use it. And the food that God is trying to give you for your spirit is a special meal plan designed by God. It's good, tastes, it's filling, and it adds to your body. The spirit and the weapon that your bodies are in the spirit. It adds to that unique design. He knows how you're made. He knows what you need to eat. He knows how you need to, what you need to absorb, the spiritual vitamins and minerals that you need for your soul. But you keep eating junk. When God says, taste and see that the Lord is good. You just tasted it again. Eat something, you're like, man, this is the best meal I ever had. I remember I ate at Cheesecake Factory first time. It was a long time ago. I was like 17. And we had been eating at, the drive-through at Jack in the Box, and they had like hey girl, they had like, a raspberry tea or something at the time. And then the first time we went to Cheesecake Factory, I was like, I want a raspberry tea, whatever, And I get the raspberry tea. And I took a sip of that and I was like, oh my God, I literally remembered the flavor of the raspberry tea at the Jack in the Box. And it was like garbage. It's like the memory was garbage compared to the raspberry tea, right? You don't know how much garbage you've been eating because you keep settling for the drive-through food when God is trying to sit you down and give you a better meal. He's trying to, but we talk about the table, but we don't talk about having the right appetite so that we can actually understand what we're eating and why we're eating. God's trying to show you what to eat, how to feed your spiritual soul, how you need to feed the spiritual body that you have. You don't know how you're built. You're not looking at yourself. But the enemy, when he sees you, he sees exactly what you have. When God looks at you, he knows exactly what you need for what you have. But the enemy, he builds the assignment against you based off of what he sees and what scares him. And he's like, okay, I don't need you to understand that you actually have strong arms and strong wings and that you can run 1,000 miles per hour. I don't need you to understand that your body is also made of sounds and symbols, and that your praise and worship actually can do damage to me. If I can make you believe that you can't sing, or that there's no point of praising God, if I can make you believe that you don't have the strength to do the thing that's in front of you, then I win in plain sight. Your gifts are in plain sight, but he's put mud on the mirror, so you don't see who you are. The enemy knows exactly who you are. He is a spiritual being. And while you're sitting there taking his poison, it's set up to deplete you, to make you feel weak. God is trying to bring you to the table. And when we get to the table, sometimes we're looking back for the bad food in the spirit. We're looking back for all the other things that never really satisfied us. We were so used to it. Don't get to your table and not be able to enjoy your food because you're so used to eating crap in the spirit. It's not enough. It never was enough. That's why that gnawing feeling that just never feels like, you're not fully ever happy. You're never fully at peace. Enemy try to say, oh, you deal with depression. No, you're not dealing with depression. You're dealing with being out of your purpose. You're dealing with not being yourself. You need to be who God called you to be, so you can actually be happy. You need to have that hunger again, that desire again. You need to go after those things. You need to move the wings that he gave you to fly. He's told you that you can't even walk or fly, and this whole time you got legs to run and jump and wings to fly. You got all this ability, but if you keep looking in the dirty mirror that he gave you and through the lens that he gave you. So yeah, it's so important. God, show me who I am through your eyes. But you know what? Also show me how the enemy sees me. You know why? Because I want to see how scared he really is. Why are you so scared? You obviously see something I don't really see. You obviously know something about me that I don't know. What you so afraid of? What is it that you've been watching me do this whole time? What is it that you've been watching about my gifts and my talents for the reason why you have made me believe that this horse crap that you keep trying to feed me is good for me? The lie. No more. No more. Anyway, are you really hungry, or is your hunger being suppressed? Are you really ready to eat at the table that God has prepared for you? Because let me tell you something. I've cooked, I cook for my family. But one thing I do not want to do is sit here and cook a whole meal and then they get to the table and complain. Dinner been ready. Table's been set. Are you really hungry? Or do you want to keep eating Twinkies and bags of chips as your meal? Spiritually, do you want more? Are you really satisfied with you've been eating? Are you really satisfied with who you've been operating as? You haven't been happy? Remember the sweet spot. Remember and know that there is more to who you are than what you've become or what you've accepted. And it's not about age. It's just about being who you are. Circumstances tell us one thing, but God continues to say the same thing. You are wonderful and fearfully made. It's time to eat, and it's time to eat good. And it's time that your taste buds change. Okay? Well, that's all I have for today. I'm about to go. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your time. Thank you for coming by. God, I just want to pray over everybody, God, that under the sound of my voice, no matter when they hear this, God, I pray that you cover them and keep them from all hurt, harm, and danger. Lord, I pray for those who aren't saved, that they be saved. I pray, God, right now that they can repeat after me. If they want to be saved, they can say these words. My Father who art in heaven, God of all, I believe that you are the one true God and that Jesus is the Son of God and that through him that I can be saved. Forgive me for all of my sins, and I pray that your Son come live in my heart in Jesus' name. Amen. I confess with my mouth that Jesus Christ is Lord. He's the King of Kings and he's the Lord of Lords. He is Jehovah Jireh. If you have prayed that prayer, then you are now saved. You are saved by faith and you're saved by grace and you're saved by the stripes of Jesus Christ. If you believe in him and you believed because you said it and now he's with you, it's that easy. It's that simple. He already did the hard work at the cross. So I just want to leave y'all with that. And if you're having a hard time with this and someone tries to make you feel like you're not and that you're not doing enough to be saved, the action to be saved was already made by Jesus at the cross. The only thing you need to do is confess with your mouth. John 3:16, look it up. Okay? So don't let people tell you who you are. If God has called you to be with him in time and in eternity, don't let nobody tell you that you're not a believer because you don't understand or think the way that they think. That God worked those things out in you if there is something that needs to be worked out. But let me tell you something. There's a big secret. That's not a secret. We all fall short and none of us are righteous. It is the blood of Jesus that makes us righteous. So when God looks at us, he sees the blood of the lamb on us and he'd be like, okay, you're good. But when he look at you and you ain't got the blood of the lamb on, it's like, it is the blood of Jesus that we receive for ourselves that covers us. We are not. Nobody's clean. Nobody's perfect. Ain't nobody gonna ever be perfect. We don't even know what that means. We think we know what it means, and everybody has a different idea of it, which lets us know that we're not. We don't even understand perfection. I think perfection would truly scare us, honestly, because it's a beauty in its own, and it's something God created, and it's something that is only God. So we don't even understand it because we don't even understand God fully. God says we prophesy in part and we know in part. And then when we're with him, things will be fully known. So he doesn't even tell us everything. He tells us what we need to know and what we can handle. And some things we just have to live out. But don't let nobody try to take away your faith in who you are. And don't be overly hard on yourself. Just do your best for that day. Okay? Because we only live one day at a time, truly. We be so far in ahead in the future in our minds. But honestly, the only time that we live is now. Right now. Well, what are we doing right now? Well, I'm trying to do this. You can plan, but it takes a lot of nows to get to the next thing. So just do your best as you go along. Go ahead, plan, prepare, love yourself well and prepare the best you can, but don't let it drive you crazy. Just show up right now. Okay. Much love to everybody. Thanks for joining. I'll talk to you guys later. Remember, your crown could be tilted. It can be a little cracked, but it'll still shine. Put that baby on, wear it anyway, and be proud because you are the only one that is you, and we need you. I'll talk to you guys later and see you next time at the throne. Bye.